All right, Tang. So and Lock. Sorry. All right. So I'm going to record myself through this whole process. I'm going to push Lily Garden through, and I'll talk through it as I'm making changes, and as I'm seeing things, I'll make the adjustments. I haven't looked at anything on this one, so I'm literally going to start from wherever you guys have finished, and just work through it. So I'll just check out the symbols just to make sure I know what I'm looking for. I can see intercoms. Obviously, they've got the same symbol, so I just need to make sure I'm looking at them. Entry stations obviously go on at the entries to the building. Handsets go in the apartments, so I'll just be keeping an eye on that. And alrighty, so I am just scanning to see stuff. Depending on these ceilings, if they are concrete, then these will end up being external cameras. That's probably one thing I'll see, because they're in the lift lobbies. I'm not actually sure whether they're going to be on concrete or onto plaster. That's another way that we kind of determine whether we're going to use an internal camera or an external camera. So typically an internal camera would be mounted to plaster, and an external camera will be mounted to concrete or to some other material. So the reason that we use an external camera is that we then include what we call a junction box, that gives us the ability to mount to something other than plaster, and it might drop conduits or something in there. So that's another reason why we use internals and externals. I'll leave them for the moment, but I'll just keep a note in my mind that they could end up being external cameras. Apart from that, everything looked okay on there. Once again, scanning around, just looking for anything that jumps out. Doesn't. I can see that you've got no takeoff items. Everything is the 3 cameras. Read switches. Great. Read switches. Fine. So I would be, and this is just me, so mortise locks are expensive. Electric strikes aren't. Mortise locks also require the cable transfer. We can actually achieve the same thing if we're looking with a monitored electric strike. So I'd be using monitored electric strikes over mortise locks. Unless it specifically asks for a mortise lock, I would be using electric strikes. Now, I'm not even going to reference the specification in this instance, because I know that I've got a budget to meet, so I'm going to be putting forward my solution based on what's going to help us achieve the budget, and electric strikes will do that before a mortise lock will. All right, so these cameras, that camera is definitely mounted on concrete, so that camera will definitely be external camera. And even though it is internal, it'll be an external fixing. So as I explained before, when we use external fixings, that's we use the external camera. So it's mounted on concrete, which it would be in this instance. It's I'm using an external camera. I'll come back and look at the door controllers in a second once I've got a better understanding of the job. And good. Okay, so once again, strike doesn't have to be monitored unless there's a note somewhere else, but I'll come back through and it looks like I'm going to delete these guys. I'm sorry, I'm just going to erase them all because it looks like I've used them for everything, and I am not going to use them just based on what I explained before. So we're going to use strikes. So that's yeah, and then typically that's what I'd like you to do as well. If you're putting locks on doors and there's no note as to what type of lock to use the electric strike over the mortise lock. It's just a more cost-effective option. Now I'm just scanning around, making sure that if I've deleted something that you've added on, I've put it back there. And if you watch this video and you see me scan past something and like that, and you see it, please yeah, jump in there and fix it up. Obviously, similar to yourselves, I will miss things. Do my best not to, but even the Michael Jordans like me miss things. So I can see that you've added, all right. So intercom control panel, they're not intercom control panels, these are handsets. I'm not going to go back through and fix them. I'm just going to, in this instance, I'm going to assume that they are all monitors, and I'm just going to change the name. So please yeah, if we're going to run with, so we've got 8 now. We've got 8 door stations, so they're at the entries, and then 164 monitors. Everything else looks like it's being captured. I'm going to go back to my scope for a second quickly. There is a note here on the drawing that, on the scope, sorry, that read switches to bin rooms not required to 4.3 below, delete. So I'm just going to make sure that we haven't still got them on our drawing. I just want to make sure we're as competitive as possible. So if someone else is deleting something, then we just need to make sure we're deleting it as well. And obviously, we're competing with people in these instances. So if we're including something that they're not, that's where we can potentially come unstuck from a pricing perspective. So sometimes I'll go over the drawings a couple of times. If I see a note that kind of, yeah, catches my attention, I'll just come back in and run over it again. So that's fine. Comms room is fine. Supply air room, fire pump room. There's an RF. So I'm going to assume that's for our garage door. So I'll just create a once off, and let's just double check for you guys that you have. There we go. So I'm just going to make sure we're keeping an eye on any of those, and then we also need to understand the door that's controlling and where that door is. So that's